You have no idea how much I'm looking forward to this session. And it's been a little while since my last stream. I think it's been like 2 weeks, or maybe even more. And every day I was thinking, when will I be able to get back? So there's some stuff that's been going on that kind of took up most of my time. And I am so happy to be back here. So today, this piece, let me show you something. So this is the piece I'm stitching today. So this is from Heaven and Earth design, and I should know the name of the creator, but it escaped me right now, and I'll put in the description after the stream. But this is a beautiful piece. It looks like a beautiful sketch, and I'm really fond of the style. So let me just show you where I am right now. So I'm at the upper corner, upper left corner. That's where I normally start. And let me just zoom in a little bit and move it to the side a little bit. I'm a little bit out of practice. Okay, so I hadn't done it for a little while. So let me see if I can make it as streamlined as possible. So there we are. So if you look at the upper left corner where there's a bouquet of flowers, I mean, there's all flowers everywhere. That's where I'm starting. And so the method I'm stitching for this piece is block by block and also row by row. So this is probably probably the most disciplined way, one of the sort of most disciplined methods that I stitch. So I kind of switch different methods for different pieces and to suit my mood. So sometimes I like to cross country and sometimes I don't. I want to be very disciplined and have sort of really clearly defined rules. So this is one of the pieces that I'll say, I'm sort of following the rules a little bit more. So this is 22 counts Ada, and I'm using not DMC, I'm using CXC. So it's a brand that probably a lot of people are not familiar with, but you can buy their floss in London, in the UK at least. So they're quite fluffy, and I'm doing 10 stitches, the half stitches, and I'll zoom in a little bit more so you can see. So it's great with CXC because it's quite full. The stitches are quite full because of the texture of the floss. So it works really well for half stitches because sometimes you worry about the coverage. So let me just remove this one, this needle, wrong size. And so, and before I start, I just want to show you, I'm using, let me zoom out a little bit here. So I'm using Pattern Keeper to keep track of my stitches, and I'm starting with 0. So let's see how many stitches I can manage with this session. So, and also I'm parking as well. If you have seen sort of other pieces that I'm working on. Some projects I don't park, so I like the variety of being able to change different way of stitching and different message. So, oh, I'm so looking forward to this. Been craving and craving to stitch for days, if not weeks, and it's like coming home. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more, because these stitches are quite fine. And I'm going to start from here. Let's have a look. Beautiful. It does feel like coming home. I'm so happy. So let me start with this one. So this is about, let's see, 5 o'clock, just 5:15 in the UK. And it's kind of an odd time for me to stitch, because I normally stitch either really late or really early in the morning, or early in the afternoon, actually. But I do what I can, I'm happy to stitch anytime I can manage. Okay, I'm already breaking my rules, so there you go. This is how it goes. So what I'm trying to do is to stitch row by row, and so it's nice and tidy, because if I fill in the color, single color with each block, the stitches get really tight after a while, and the final few stitches is just not fun to do. So I'm trying to create space as I stitch, but never mind, it's just how it goes. If I break the rules, I break the rules. It's a beautiful day in London. Let me just find my little scissors. So I'm going to end this thread here. I've got my coffee ready as well. So A40. So this is a big booklet, because I've got all the whole set, whole color set in one single organizer. So a lot going on here. A40. There you go. That's what I want. So CXC floss, it's very full body. The texture is a lot sort of fluffier. It's hard to describe. The DMC floss tend to be tighter. Maybe it's a sign of quality of the floss. I'm not an expert on how they make these threads, but CXC is a little bit more loose. It's hard to show it on the camera. It's too fine there, but it's quite a nice texture to stitch with. So for most pieces, 25 counts, large pieces, I tend to stitch with DMC floss. But these half stitches, so 10 stitches pieces that I've started maybe only the last few months, because it's kind of experimental to me. So I felt slightly precious with DMC floss. And I just thought, well, if it's an experiment, I didn't know whether I was going to like, whether I was going to enjoy stitching with 10 stitches. I didn't want to go for DMC just in case I just kind of waste the material. And it turned out I really, really love 10 stitches. It's a different kind of experience. I love full crosses as well, but this is really fun to do. 10 stitches, if you haven't tried it before, it's worth trying, because before I always felt like half stitches, it's a little bit like cheating. You know what I mean? It's it's fast. And also I was worried the texture of the kind of slanted stitches were going to kind of not look very nice. And turned out I really like it. I think, oh, hang on. I think I'm going to move over to the left there. I'm making up rules as I go along. So even though it's supposed to be row by row, I'm following, I think, the content creator, the floss tuber. I think the channel name is Stitch Ninja. Maybe you have come across her videos before. She's very thorough, really peaceful. And she pioneered this method called snake method. And all it is a variation of row by row stitching. You go row by row, but you're allowed to stitch the same color below, if that makes sense. So normally row by row, you have to go quite strictly, finish one row, and then move on to the second row. But her method allows you to, let me just see, make sure I haven't stitched in the wrong area. Her method allows you to stitch any area that's got one stitch above. I think I totally botched the explanation there, but it's a lot more flexible. Let me just move it over here a little bit. And so it's a little bit faster. It gives you more flexibility in terms of, where you're allowed to stitch. I mean, all the methods, ultimately, it's all about creating rules and structures so you don't get lost. And also it makes stitching more fun in the sense that it's like trying to solve a puzzle. You know, there's a certain strategy and process and sequence to it. So, and I'm still trying to figure out how I can incorporate Pattern Keeper on my screen. There's some technical challenges I have to overcome before I can do that. But I love watching people stitching and look at how they select the stitches, like how they move forward with their stitches. It's quite fun. And Pattern Keeper gives you that information. So I love to be able to figure out how to do it properly. So you're able to see how it goes. And did I tell you how happy I am to come back to stitching? So my stitching is probably all over the place. I have to warm up, you know, just like exercise. You have to warm up a few stitches before we start to flow. So let me have a look at this. 3363. 3364. I've got one stitch here. It's a lovely green. So the starting stitches, the starting method for half stitches of 10 stitches is a little bit trickier. I keep changing methods because I just haven't found the best one yet. So what I'm doing is creating a pin stitch and then stitch over it. So with 2 strands, unless I'm able to do a loop start, this is the method I use. So let me see. Going for this one. This is so relaxing. And I love the color palette as well. It's just so earthy and so beautiful. It's like stitching grass or plants. That's what it feels like with this piece for me. You know, when there are challenges in life and when things feel kind of chaotic sometimes, you know, the stitching just gives you, well, it gives me so much peace. feels everything is okay. And everything will be okay. So this one is getting pretty short. Let me see if I could take it down here. So this is what I'm talking about. So normally when you do, let me just zoom in a little bit. Normally when you do row by row, if you're strict about it, I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing, but the snake method says, it's like quoting some sort of rule book. The snake method allows me to stitch anywhere that's got a stitch above, if that makes sense. So, and the goal, the reason for that is ultimately what we want is not to stitch in areas that's crowded by other stitches. That's why we do row by row, right? And but when you stitch somewhere below somewhere that's already stitched, you're not creating crowded stitches. Again, I probably butchered it. Never mind. It will make sense if you. That's not my forte, explaining things. So let me end this thread here. So I'm simply just anchor the thread underneath so I can stitch over on top of it to make sure everything's properly stitched down. So I mean, these stitches are to the fabric, the sort of fabric size. What not? What am I talking about? The stitch size, because this is 22 count. It's too small for pin stitches. I can probably manage it, but it looks really ugly. It just got pimples everywhere. So instead, I'm just anchoring the end thread at the bottom and stitch over it. It's tidier, I think. And then I'm moving on to this one. Let me see if I can zoom down a little bit more. I mean, the enjoyment of me watching other people's stitches is to be able to see the stitches and how the thread goes through. There's something so satisfying about it. And let me see. I think I picked this one. Okay, there's one stitch there. So I'm going to anchor this down as well. The colors are just so beautiful. So I'm going to park it over there in the next block. So you can probably see the shape I'm forming here. So I'm stitching one block at a time, but I'm also going diagonally or somewhere there. Not very strict about it, but kind of keeping it diagonal in general. So this is, the direction that I feel most intuitive for me. I know some people go upper right to left, bottom left. Well, I've seen people stitch from bottom up. I can never figure out how to do that. Well, I've got a couple pieces that I stitch from the center of a piece. So eventually I'll have to stitch from bottom up at some point. I'll see how it goes when we get there. But I like challenges. I like changes. I like the unknown, because I'm just not able to kind of just stick with one way of stitching and be happy about it. I just have to change back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's the fun of it. 3A60. 3A. Let me have a look. 3/8. Okay. So that's at the very bottom. That one. Let me have a look. It's this brown. And can you imagine stitching like this without something like Pattern Keeper? All the park threads. How do you manage that with paper patterns? So I love starting a new thread because I can do loop start. That's the joy of it. It's so easy though. I think you can do a loop start without folding the thread, but it's just, you still create a tail that you have to cut off. So it's not exactly the same. You could technically do it, but it's not as easy and clean as if you have a folded, piece of thread. Let's have a look. Let me just zoom out a little bit so it doesn't get that crazy autofocus on constantly. Camera can be very sensitive. Let's see. $6.40. $6.40. Here we go. $6.40. All these earthy greens and browns. I think stitching It's like reading a book. You know, what book you choose to read for that moment in time. It's totally based on how you feel at that time. And sometimes you feel like something really bright and noisy. And sometimes you don't. Oh, hang on. I've got one here already. Is that the same color? Oh, yeah, it is. Or is it? Yeah, I've got a part thread here already. And instead, I started a new one. Never mind. Let me just dock this back. And pick this one up. Let me see. Up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to make a move that's less conventional. I'm going to stitch over this one because I want to take the thread over to the right, and I don't want the thread just float over the stitched area. And I hope that makes some sense. Okay. Yeah, it's like a chess that you play. Not that I play chess at all, but I imagine it's a bit like that. It's like a board game. You're trying to figure out where to move next to make things most efficient. So this one, I'm going to take it below. I don't mind it because it's unstitched area. So we take it to the bottom. Left here. So each stitch is like a puzzle you're trying to solve. And that's the fun of it. But sometimes you just want to cross country. You know, you just want to take the thread wherever you want. I never do sort of full sort of long distance cross country, but I do a lot of mini cross country stitches. It's quite free to do. Let's see, where do I go next? So I've got so there are a couple of stitches here. I'm going to just leave them out because I'm going to do it when I do the block next to it below, so I don't have to start a new thread of the same color. I'm going to move on to the next one. There's a sense of satisfaction when you finish a block, and that's the beauty of stitching block by block, because these pieces are so big. You just need that sort of milestones, so you feel like you're progressing somewhere rather than, you know, kind of an endless journey. You don't know where it's going to get to the destination. But you soon realize it's that every stitch is the destination. And where else are you going? You know, you don't know when the piece is going to be finished. Maybe never. Let me see, where am I? So it's all about the journey. All about the journey. go. So moving to the block, to this block here, the thread management. And to be honest, since I discovered sort of large size like this, I mean, this one is actually mini. I forgot to mention. So this is not the regular. This is the mini version, but it's still fairly big. But since I discovered full coverage, particularly the world of heaven and earth, I kind of try to go back and stitch some of my previous pieces, more simpler type of projects. And I actually just couldn't get into it for some reason. I don't know. Maybe once you come into this type of stitches, samplers just seem just something missing there. I can't tell you why that is, because I love samplers because it's just so beautiful and so simple. But in terms of stitching experience, I just crave for this kind of complexity and the fullness. And that's, you know, that's so different from stitching something like a sampler. I still have a few projects there that I would like to go back to once in a while. You know, like a palette cleanser, you know, sorbate between courses. So you enjoy the main meal even more, something like that. 2, 3. Oh, this piece is so nice to stitch. And nine, 3, 4. It's a nice dark color, dark green. UK is getting really lovely and warm. I think if you live in London for a while, you really appreciate the changes of the seasons, particularly when it starts to get warm. It feels like the world is waking up from the winter. You know, if you live somewhere that's always warm, never rain that much, then maybe you don't appreciate the sunlight as much as you would if you're in the UK. I mean, UK winter can be pretty challenging if you're not used to it. The daytime is very short. You know, it gets dark by 3:30. And you know, it's not unusual to go through months and months, just cold and wet and dark in the, you know, in the winter time, or even in the summertime. That happens too. The summer, the daytime now is getting much longer. In the mid kind of summertime, it could be bright, you know, daylight by 9 o'clock. It's still quite bright. But it doesn't mean it wouldn't rain. It can still rain for weeks and weeks. And times like that, it really helps if you have some way to kind of take your mind off the darkness, the wetness. And I think stitching is pretty nice. Pretty cozy thing to do when you can just kind of hide in your little corner and just focus on these little stitches. And forget about the world. You know, all the silliness sometimes. So the snake method allows me to just stitch downwards if it's the same color, which is pretty nice. Okay, this is as far as I'm going to go down. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And let me take it over here. So the kind of the method I choose to stitch is pretty much determined by a couple of things for me. It's a very personal thing. Let me just dot this one down here, anchor it. So the most important thing for me is not to have floating threads at the back, even though I rarely look at the back, but it's all about, I know it's there if I have threads kind of floating over stitched area. I don't mind it so much if it's unstitched area, because I can stitch over it and everything gets tucked in. But it really troubles me if I know there are threads kind of floating at the back over stitch area. So when you look at it, you just see a lot of like threads floating everywhere. And that's fundamentally can happen if you go for kind of full-on cross country. So you take threads everywhere, up and down, and the back gets really bulky and really messy. That troubles me. And so whatever I do, it's about managing that process. So that becomes a kind of a challenge, a nice challenge actually, because it dictates how I stitch and what rules I choose to follow or not follow. And you probably, I don't know, you've noticed I'm not very good with following the rules. My instinct is trying to break it as soon as the opportunity. So that's that. But sometimes when there are really kind of rules that make sense, I follow it. I follow them as much as I can anyway. So let me see, I can move this over here so I can maybe see a little bit more. Maybe I can make this a little bit smaller. Oh, the technology, look at this. Yes, I like that. Okay. And this is such an orderly way of stitching as well. I felt like you know, it's less unpredictable with cross country. I think cross country. Let me see, where am I? Yes, here. I think the cross country 3364. I have one already threaded here. I think cross country, if there's any downside, I think depends on the fabric count and the piece. The downside is, in the end, the stitches are going to get very crowded. Let me do a pin stitch first. So that's the part I don't enjoy that much. I like the freedom to be able to just take the thread anywhere. Sometimes you're just in the mood to do that. But you know eventually it's gonna get a lot of stitches is surrounded by other stitches, so everything gets very tight. So there are pros and cons with every method, I think. What's your favorite method? Are you a single method kind of person? Or you're a bit like me, all over the place kind of kind of person? Yeah, that's me. All over the place. 3799. This is kind of between blue and green. It's beautiful. Let's see. Oops. And I've been doing a lot of these, this type of half stitches, 10 stitch projects, and some 14 counts, which I hadn't done for a long time. So I actually neglecting the 25 counts, which I was primarily stitching for the past maybe couple of years. So I'm starting to miss those, and I'd love to go back at some point. Pretty soon, I think. So currently I'm cycling through maybe about seven projects, some 14 counts, and some of these ones, a couple of them are 25 counts, but half stitches. So this is a phase I'm going through. And let's see where I'm going next. 3363. Three, 6, 3. Okay. Lovely, lovely colors. And I think CXC, the color palettes, even though they match, they use the same color system as DMC, so the color charts are compatible. But if you're comparing them side by side, you can see some differences. I mean, even DMC thread themselves depends on the batches. The colors can vary quite a lot, which is quite shocking. So if you stitch, you work on a piece for a few years and you run out of floss, and then you buy a new batch, even the same colors could look very different. It'd be, that happens even within the same brand of threads. So the CXC technically, let me just make sure I'm stitching the right place. CXC technically using the same color system as DMC, but side by side you can definitely tell the difference. Even though if you stitch the entire piece with the same with CXC, for instance, you probably would notice it still come out quite beautiful. But if you place them side by side, I would say CXC, the tone of their color generally, I would say more earthy. So not as, well, you could say it's not as vibrant as DMC, but for a piece like this type of style, it works really well because you want that earthiness of the colors. So I think it's perfect. I'm really happy with the thread choice. And it's very soft and fluffy, velvety to stitch as well. So let me have a look. I might end this thread because it's getting quite short. I know it looks chaotic, but there's an order to it. You can see these flowers emerging. It's so beautiful. Three, 8, 6, 2. And I think this particular thread organizer is getting a little bit full, because I tend to just use the entire scan rather than just a small portion of it. I just put a whole scan in an organizer, so it gets very full with the whole set. But it's working, so I'm not gonna complain about it. And I'm gonna take it down here. I think that one is tucked down already, so I'm going to cut it off so I have less fluffy ends in a way. And sometimes I felt like a barber or hairdresser managing this thread. Let me see. So that one is here. Six, 4, 5. And stitches are so much faster. Three, 0, 3, 1. Let's see what that is. It's a nice brown. Took two by accident. It's 3031. Loop start is the best. And that's what I miss when I stitch single strand and 25 counts. And single strand loop start is just not quite the same. So let's see. Is that correct? Yes. Right. Oh, I'm going to jump pretty far to the right here. Racy Pacey. Kind of park down here. Um, 640. I thought, oh, right. Okay, here we go. So normally, so you can see I've got like tons of needles here, like everywhere. So I use tons of them. So normally if I, so for instance, with this color, and I do a couple of stitches, I tend to leave the thread on the needle and just park it on my thread organizer. So next time if I need it, it's already threaded. So I go through a lot of needles. I'm constantly buying needles because sometimes they bend, or not quite snap, but they kind of change shape. Maybe I'm just stitching too hard. So you lose some of them sometimes, but mostly just having thread kind of part in on the needles. Let me show you. So I put a piece of felt on top of on top of the card, well, the top part of the card. So you can see all these part needles here. That I keep them there. So there are quite a lot of them are being part on the organizer. And so each type of threads, I create a new book, so to speak. And so those ones, or the other DMC ones, for instance, and they will have their own set of needles as well. So tons of needles being part on the organizer. So this is how I like to do it. It doesn't really so much saving time because I can thread pretty quickly, but it's just nice to have some part, threaded ones there waiting for you. You feel, it feels nice. It's all about feeling nice. Whatever makes you happy. It's not so much becoming a sort of a super fast stitcher, and as you can see my channel name there, I would never claim to be a fast stitcher because that's not what it's about for me. I like to be efficient, but I have to enjoy the process. This is not a race, I'm not racing with anyone. What am I doing here, if I'm not enjoying it? Here we go. And I think there's something so calming and satisfying to have kind of a system going on, is I'm talking about the stitching methods, but also how you organize your needles, how you organize your floss. That's all part of the therapy, And every time I learn new tricks, new ways of doing things from others, it kind of just ignites the enthusiasm, and it's just so much fun. Because sometimes you go through periods that you go, well, you kind of don't feel like stitching. You lose the motivation sometimes. But every time if I watch someone else stitching, I start to go, oh, I need to get to my projects because it looks like so much fun. Sometimes you just need that inspiration from others. Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna take it over this end. And park it down here. Three, 6, 3. I don't know whether you've come across this channel called Emma. I'm pretty sure it's Emma. stitches. Gemma, sorry. Gemma stitches. And she's really lovely lady. I think she's Canadian. And she stitches in a very particular way. Most of her pieces are, I think, oh, I did it again. I've already have a part thread, but I created another one because I didn't mark the part thread properly. So that's all on me. 3363. And yes, I'm talking about Gemma stitches. I love the way she stitches. She kind of uses method. I don't know if there's an official name, but she would stitch in a way, kind of edging away from the stitch area. So there's no floating stitches away. A little bit like what I'm doing here, but not block by block. She would go diagonal and just kind of ease away from the edges. And it's a beautiful way of stitching because you avoid the kind of tight stitches area, which I don't enjoy. So I kind of learned from her. So there are a few pieces I stitch like that for quite a while. But I find that method works less well with higher fabric counts. So for instance, 25 counts. It's much harder to do because the stitches are smaller, and also it's probably less critical to do it like that because with 25 counts, the stitches are pretty. Yeah, because there's less fabric involved, so the stitches are not as tight as you would be even if you stitch in areas that's surrounded by other stitches. It's not too bad. Whereas if you do that with 14 counts, you probably feel it more acutely. So there are pieces that I do it her way, and it's great fun. It's not fast for me. It's probably slower than other methods for me anyway. But it's really fun way of doing it. You should check out her channel, Emma Stitches. But she managed to finish quite a few pieces throughout the 2-3 years I've been watching her. So she's fast, you know, and she kind of stitches the same way. And I think the point I want to kind of make is that she doesn't deviate from the way she stitches, which is quite remarkable. For me, I need to kind of swap around, do different things, or I get kind of bored. So everyone is very different. Every stitcher is very different. 938. 938. Yes, I've got one threaded already. Oh dear. There's my cat, Dolly, looking for attention under the desk. When cats want your attention, it's not subtle. Cool. I'm gonna dock it down here. I don't know whether you can hear it. Dolly's purring like crazy under the desk. Hello, darling. 844. I think once you have a cat, you can never imagine life without a cat. You know, once you have a cat, you're done for. You're pretty much hooked. Stuck over here. Remove this one. Let's have a look. Oh dear, have I think I've just stitched in the incorrect area. Let's have a look. So I'll do this one. Crisis averted. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 1, 2. That doesn't make sense. One, two, three. I'm a bit lost. Let's see. 1, 2, 1 here. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's have a look. It's the same color. Already parked. Oh, mystery. Never mind. Let me end this one. Yeah, sometimes I park somewhere and I forget to mark it on Pattern Keeper. So that happens. Let's have a look at this one. 3031. Right. All is good. All is good. Dolly, Mummy's busy right now. I think I'll do one more stitch over here. And the thread is getting very short. I think if I watch the way I stitch, maybe 3 years ago, before I started to do parking and stuff, I probably go, this person is utterly crazy. Why would you want to stitch this way and have thread kind of go everywhere? Let me just take off the fluff. But once you get used to it, it's just the way it is. All the threads, they're there for a reason, and they will make they will make sense in some way if you part them in a correct location. Otherwise, it's a bit of a mystery adventure. But that's part of the joy of parking, I guess. And it's fascinating to watch how people manage the process. Oops, it's a little bit tight here. Lovely. I'm gonna park down here. Yes. Take it down here. And the great thing about stitch diagonally is that you create that entire edge that goes through different color groups or palettes. Oh, hello, I've got a message. I've got a comment. It's JD Walker. Hey, Yogi. I love part threads. They're all there waiting to be stitched. Absolutely. I also stitched 10 by 10 diagonal blocks. Right, lovely. So you can appreciate the benefit of stitching this way. Absolutely. Thank you for your comments. And yeah, I think you probably have to do it to know why you choose to kind of stitch this way, because some people like to do horizontally or maybe top down, all sorts of directions. I think, people tend to go for the kind of direction that makes sense to them instinctively, kind of intuitively rather. Yes, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. The great thing, one of the great things about parking method is that they're there. It's kind of nice. So you don't have to kind of start a new thread all the time. Yeah, it's a beautiful way of stitching. But I think, I don't know when you started to sort of parking. I think the first time that you see people doing the parking method, it looks pretty mad. There's so many threads going on there. So yes, but once you get used to it, it all makes perfect sense. Oh, it was 3 years ago when I discovered floss tube and parking. Well, Jodie, it's about the same time I discovered floss tube and also parking as well. I didn't even know such a thing as floss tube existed. And it was a brand new world. And it was the middle of the pandemic, the lockdown. So I just dived into the rabbit hole completely and just immersed myself in a world of not just cross stitching but parking method as well. And it took me quite a while to get my head around it. There was a lot of trial and errors, and yeah, it was quite an exciting time. Yeah, I think it was around the same time I discovered the method, and I've been trying out different, even parking methods. There are kind of different school of doing it, and you probably have heard of like royal, what is it called? Royal roll? It's that every other day you discover a new method. And all of that is kind of similar in principle, but just different rules. We apply different rules, so it's more fun to stitch and more organized, I guess. yeah, it's a lovely discovery for me. And I think, probably quite a lot of people discover new hobbies during the lockdown. A lot of people cooking for sure. And it was around the same time. Royal rolls, yes, you're aware of it. You're in the world of the parking methods. That's good to know. And yeah, it was about the same time I discovered parking keep. What is it called? A pattern keeper, rather. And I was so excited because I thought, whoa, my God, what a magical app. That's everything I dreamed of. I mean, the user interface, there's always room for improvement, but in terms of the functionality, it's just amazing. And prior to that, I always use a tablet, like a iPad and stuff, but obviously I had to kind of hack my way through by using apps like Goodreaders and stuff like that to kind of create some sort of way to track stitches. And yeah, it was kind of challenging. So when I discovered Pattern Keeper, it was, that was it. So Jody says, yes, there's a whole new world for stitches. I love Pattern Keeper. I know, I know. I think the whole world is using it. I don't know anyone that stitches, particularly in sort of full coverage kind of realm. I think everybody's probably got a copy of the app. So it's quite wonderful. I'm grateful they created the app, really. Let me have a look. So Jody, what are you working on? I'd love to know. Like the fabric counts, are you working on sort of 25 counts in the world of heaven and earth design? Or you're working on something different? And do you work on a single project for months or years? Or are you like me, a fickle stitcher? I should change my channel name to that. I kind of just change around a lot. I just need that variety. So Jody says, I'm working on 18 count full coverage called Spotted by TCSSR work by Abram Hunter. Oh, I don't know. I'm not aware of the creator. 18 counts. I'm trying to think whether I've got any projects that's 18 count. So I've got a lot of 25, and this one is 22, and I think I've got one that's 20. and the rest of them are 14. I don't think I've got any P's. That's 18 counts. That's so interesting. And Jody says, I'm working on one at a time, but considering changing that. You're amazing, Jody. If you've been stitching for 3 years, you're stitching one piece at a time. You are amazing. I don't know how you manage. Oh, it's the cross stitch studio. I see. Wow. Yeah, some people can just stick with a single piece till it's finished. And I deeply admire people like that. I just can't do it. I just know it. So I'm not even going to try. So let me just pop this down here before I forget. Yes, I think the benefit of stitching a single piece at a time is that you're kind of in that world for a long time till it's finished, and you see it through. You get to know the colors, perhaps. Yeah, I can't imagine what it is. And Jody says, I finished one piece already, and I'm 49.85% done on this one. Whoa, that's nearly halfway. Amazing. Let me check my progress for this piece. Let's have a look. So pattern keeper here. So from the session, from the beginning of this session, I managed 113 stitches, which is not too bad considering I'm talking as well. But overall, you can see that's 3.18, which is not atypical. Let me show you my other pieces. Most of them, my larger pieces, so for this one, the winter, so this one, this is beautiful. But I don't know whether you're aware of this piece. Let me see if I can load up the mock-up. Oh, this is so beautiful. So I started this piece when the pattern came out. This is relatively new. Let me just remove this one here so you can see. And I fell in love with this piece, and I thought I have to start stitching it. So I did it in 25 count, the typical, heaven and earth stitch count. And I started from the middle. I need to start doing a session with this piece. I miss it. But let me have a look. Let me show you. So the completion. I can show you from here actually. So this is my progress with this stitch so far. And I had to start from the middle because of this beautiful cat. I just thought I couldn't wait for years and years stitching from the outer edge before I get to this little kitty. So I decided to go from the center, which I don't normally do. And my progression with this one is 4.52%. I mean, bear in mind, this is the massive, really big piece. So you can see if I zoom out, it's a tiny bit in the middle there. Still quite significant for, in my book, because most pieces, I'm just, kind of moving very slowly. But it's a beautiful piece. I love doing it. But this is kind of typical of all my pieces. They're around single digit realm. So, and you can see how many projects I've got here. It's going to take about 10 lifetimes before I finish a single piece. So I'm not putting my hopes up there. I'm just enjoying sort of, the process of stitching and not worrying about how far I'm moving or how fast. So that's kind of my way of looking at it. But it's quite nice to have a piece that's 50%, a close. Yes. I think it's nice to take it slow because, what's the point of stitching if you're just rushing through and be completely goal orientated. But, kind of feeling frustrated, you're not going fast enough, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose. Stitching is therapy for me. So if I don't feel calm and peaceful with every single stitch, then I might as well go do something else. Yes, I'm slow as well, so we're in the same club. Welcome. Yes. And once I free myself from the kind of, oh, I like to finish a piece, everything becomes easier because I'm in no rush. I just stitch one stitch at a time, and that's it. Yes, I stitch to relax as well. Why else would you stitch, right, Jody? That it's not a job. I'm not a professional stitcher, if there's such a thing. I think there might be professional stitchers, companies like Heaven and Earth. They probably, I don't know for sure, they probably hire people to test out their charts to make sure it comes out as good as it should be. So there are probably people out there that actually stitch as a profession. How amazing is that? But I'm not sure if I had to stitch as a job, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. Don't know what you think about that. Would you want to be a professional stitcher as much as you love stitching? I think anything, when it becomes a job, it just becomes less enjoyable. It's just human nature, I think. Let me see, 3787. 87. So Jody, are you stitching right now? Because I like to watch other people stitching when I'm stitching as well. You feel like as a like-minded person doing it with you. That's quite nice. Let me have a sip of coffee. It's nearly 7, so it's a bit naughty drinking caffeinated drinks, but I'm okay with that. Oh, you are? Excellent. That makes me happy. And what time is it over there? wherever you are, because we're about 7 p.m. over here in the UK, which is about supper time. 1 p.m. Nice and early. That's nice. You're drinking coffee too, lovely. Oh, lady of my own heart. Yes, coffee and stitching is just lovely together. All the lovely things together, you know. That's life. That's happiness. Simple things, you know. Let me just take this down here. You're in Texas. Oh, hang on a second. There was another lovely lady. Oh, what's her name? I should know. She's got a channel as well. I think she's from Texas as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure. Geography is not my forte. But, oh, how lovely. Yes, sending my love to Texas. If I got it. Okay. Over here. One, two. Yes, I've only been to United States once. That was years ago, to be honest. I went to New York, and I love New York. I'm a city person, so New York has got this vibe. It's really, really lively. I was even thinking, well, you know, you never know. Maybe I can live here. But then I never went back. So, oh, you might be thinking about stitching those big things by Helly? No, that name doesn't ring a bell. There was another lady. Oh, I should remember her name, because it's been a few weeks of me doing streaming, so my brain kind of got a bit emptied out. But yes. But there was another lady that visited my live stream last time, and we had a lovely chat as well. So 1 p.m. in Texas right now. I see. The time difference. Time difference is a beautiful thing, because it doesn't matter what time of the day you are, there are always people either awake or sleeping. Let me see. Oh, see, I nearly managed a second block here. It's a little bit faster with half stitches, but let me see. 3861. There you go. Yes, I was talking about going to New York. And I actually went with my mom. It was kind of a treat to take her there. Went there for a concert as well. So fond memories, fond memories. This one over here. So normally when I can, I take the color to the block next to it, and if not, below, or somewhere, whichever is nearest with the same color. So I don't have to take the thread too far away. I think that's my thing. Kind of generally don't like to take threads too far away. So I'm going to take some of these ones off, out of the way, so it will look a little bit less chaotic. This one over here. Got to be very careful, otherwise you're just cutting off the part threads. Cool. I'm gonna tease away from the fabric. Beautiful. I think I'm going to move on to one more block. See how far I can go today. I'm coming back with vengeance. So watch out, everyone. Oh, I miss stitching so much. Let's see. But in a way, it's nice to have someone something that you miss to do. You know, imagine that. I know some people they get bored. I don't know how you can ever get bored, because I haven't got enough time for things I want to do. So I'm always astonished when people say that I'm bored. I say, darling, you know, you need to find your passion. You need to find things you want to do so much that you haven't got enough time to do them. That's where you want to be. Just not enough time. All a peaceful afternoon as well. You know, because normally when you're busy, you just don't notice. You don't notice the sound of the birds and a breeze. But when you're stitching, you notice everything, because in front of me, there is this big window, and I'm overlooking my patio. It's very small. It's a London patio. But I can hear the birds from here, and I've got squirrels that come to visit me every day. I give them some nuts, and they hang out with me. And there's some really pretty birds as well. And sometimes you just need to slow down and notice things. But it's very hard to do, particularly when you're kind of maybe overwhelmed by things you need to do, your duty, rather than living sometimes. And I think stitching reminding you to do that, because this is something that you choose to do. And it takes attention, it takes time. And it slows everything down. And that's living, I think. You notice life. So Jody says, I live in the country and love feeding and watching, listening to my birds and squirrels. Hey, you've got little squirrels as well. Aren't they lovely? They're so lovely. And I'm about 20 minutes from town. Okay. I suppose people probably drive a lot. Maybe in Texas. Right. So Jody says, I'm a homebody. New York might be way too crowded for me. I get it. I get it. So I was kind of born and bred in the city. So my whole being is kind of, very much, that's kind of my default position, kind of, so to speak. And I'm saying that because when I go to countryside, so I have visited some beautiful places in Europe, France, south of France, etc. And if I spend more than 3 days in a countryside, I start to get a little bit jittery. That's when I realized maybe for me, I have a certain capacity to be in somewhere that's kind of really remote and in the countryside. If I stay there for too long, I start to miss sort of city lives. I don't know what that is. It's something that's kind of just built in all of us. It's different. For some people, they can't stand the city. They think it's dirty and noisy, and I totally get it. Yeah. Right, so everybody drives over there. And I'll confess, I have no driving license. And if you have lived in cities like London, driving is not essential. I have taken lessons when I was quite young, but never bothered to get a driving license, which is quite shocking for a lot of Americans, I think, because it seems that everybody drives over there. Maybe not so much in New York, because New York in some way is very, very much like London. If you go to areas, if I remember correctly, you go to areas like, was it Chelsea? I'm trying to remember. There was one area remarkably like London. It reminded me of, there's an area in London called Covent Garden. It's very kind of small boutique shops, narrow streets. Yeah, that reminded me a lot in London. And New York in some way is very London-like. Maybe that's why I liked it. But yeah, so And sometimes I fantasize living in somewhere like countryside, but I just know I'll probably I'll probably go kind of missing London after a while. So yeah, we're made differently. I think where you're born, or the kind of environment that you're born in, probably determine a lot of how you are in terms of, you know, where you would like to live instinctively. Not always, but for me, London is not too busy. It's just busy enough, you know, for me, but and convenient enough. But so I can't imagine if I have to drive for, you know, half an hour to get to a shop. Whereas here, I can just walk out within, you know, 3 minutes. I'm surrounded by shops. So yes. Jody says, I love hearing about those places. I presume you're talking about maybe like cities and stuff like that. Yeah, I think we're fantasized to live somewhere that's very different from where we are. But ultimately, I think we have a kind of built-in sort of capacity to be in certain type of places. It's like I said, you know, south of France is absolutely beautiful, and also there are places in the UK they're so beautiful, very remote, and maybe that's why they preserve the buildings and the scenery so well. But at the same time, it's a little bit more remote, and for someone, if you were more used to being in the city, that, you know, that may be a little bit too much after a while. So I think traveling is nice because traveling give you a sort of variety of different experience, but you're not there permanently. So I think that's why people like to travel to different places, to appreciate the difference, but ultimately you go back to where you want to live. Um, and that's perfectly good. Perfectly good. See, 1, 2, 3. Park. So Jody, I don't know whether you've been to Europe before. Don't know whether you've been to London. I'd love to visit. I'm trying to think if I were to visit US again, where would I go? I'd love to go back to New York, to have a look to see. Oh, that reminds me. Yes, when I went to New York, I went to this hotel called Chelsea Hotel. I'm sure you know. So Jody says, oh, so Jody has never been to Europe. She says, I've really not left Texas very far. Yeah, I suppose because America is so big, even if you just travel to another state, it probably feels like you travel abroad. Because America is such a unique place. You've got your own state, kind of your own government, so to speak. So each state is almost like a mini country, which is very unique. As you know, comparing to other countries, they tend to be one government. Yeah, so culturally can be very different. Even laws are different. Fascinating. 3363. Let me see. 3363. Yes. And I think traveling is really nice, but for me, sometimes it's not really a holiday. It's more like a project, right? Because normally, if I travel somewhere, by the time I come back, I need another holiday because it's exhausting. And there's some people who can just travel anywhere, anytime, and they come back. There's a cool, there's a cucumber. Whereas I literally need, sort of like recovering treatment, coming back from holiday. So I do it sparingly, unless I normally go only when kind of asked to go. It sounds terrible, but normally if someone goes, yeah, let's go somewhere together, then I'll go, okay. And as long as not very long, I can't do so long trips in terms of, staying in the same place for too long. I start to get jittery. I know, isn't it, Jodie? Traveling's exhausting. I know, because people kind of have this fantasy about traveling everywhere like it's ultimate way to relax. I'm always thinking, are you sure? Are you sure? Because it's planning and you're staying in hotels. I love hotels, don't get me wrong, but you know, you're in the you're away from home, and I always worry about my cats, and and you wonder if the house has been burgled. You just don't know. And yeah, it's just because when you're traveling, you almost have to plan every single thing. It's not spontaneous, not really. You have to plan where to go and you get lost. Yeah, you need a vacation after your vacation, exactly. But people who love traveling, they will never admit to that. They'll go, oh, it's wonderful. I feel so relaxed when I come back. And I never believe them. I just don't believe them. It's exhausting. So I would travel, but I'll look at it as a project, like an adventure. There's something that you do, and you learn new things, you experience new things. But I always plan some sort of off time afterwards because I just know I'll need a break after that. There's no place like home. I totally agree. I totally agree. Yes. It's pottering around the house, do things that you haven't got time to do. For me, that's holiday. For me, that's therapy and stitching. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think people tend to think it's so glamorous traveling everywhere. I'm just thinking you're just exhausting yourself. You're just creating a lot of work for yourself. And I think traveling is fun if it's somewhere that you really, curious about, you really want to go. And but it's about gaining different perspective. It's not so much relaxing. It's just it's nice to have different experience, It gives you perspective, which is a nice thing. But I always travel and then come back appreciating home life even more. I think that's probably the value of it, to kind of, realizing how nice it is to to stay home, really. So I'm almost finished with this block as well. I'm doing quite well. Let's see how many stitches I've managed so far. So 142, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 142 is almost 3 blocks. So each block is, oh, hang on, no, my math is terrible. No, it's about 1.5 blocks. I thought I managed more than that. Never mind, something like that. So each block is about 100 stitches, isn't it? So 10 by 10. So I don't think I'm doing too badly. Let me see how long I've been live so far. About 2 hours. No way. No way. It feels like about an hour. So let me manage a few more stitches. Let's see how it goes before I wrap up today's session. And 10 stitches, so easy to do. It feels like in the beginning it really took some getting used to, because I just automatically want to do a cross stitch. So it took me a while to get my head around. But once you do, it's kind of nice. Thank you, Jody. Jody says, you're doing great. I think my highest record of the stitches I manage in a day, it happened in 2 occasions, and I have no idea how that happened. I suppose in totality, I probably spent more time stitching in those maybe 2 occasions. But each, I remember the highest record of was over 1,000. I have no idea how that happened. And I remember I was so shocked. Probably one of those days you just like, dive in and stitch like a crazy person, but without realizing. That happens from time to time, not very often in my case. 3064. 64, okay. But yeah, I don't know. And I remember I was doing 4 crosses as well, so it's not like I was doing half stitches. But there are days, it just flows, and just end up stitching quite a lot faster for some reason. It's one of those weird things. 3, 7, 2, 1. Jody, I think she's replying to the 1,000 stitches. No, it doesn't. It only happened to me that I can remember twice, and I have no idea how that happened. So it's a Twilight Zone situation. And I don't expect that to happen too frequently. And it's nice to have these apps because it tracks the numbers. Otherwise, you probably just wouldn't Wouldn't even notice, wouldn't even know for sure. So Jody says, I'm stitching full cross. One time I hit 800 and never again. Usually I hit about 400. Well, 400 is not shabby at all. It's pretty good. 300, that's very nice. So I don't know how long it takes for you to stitch 300. 300 is like 3 blocks, right? Yes, but 800 is pretty good. That's quite remarkable. I don't think I've ever hit anything over 500 that often. I think most days, I mean, obviously, if I only have like a couple of hours to do, then probably typically it's a bit like today. It's about just over 100, 1 to 200, somewhere there, and that's pretty typical. But if I have like a almost like an entire day that I can just sit and stitch, then maybe somewhere 500 is kind of workable, but it doesn't happen that frequently at all. 800 is pretty bad, pretty nice, not bad at all. Not bad at all. From 9 a.m. to 2. Wow, that's a yeah, it's fair amount of time, 800. Stitching into the night. Yeah, I know. But some days it just flows because most days I wouldn't be able to dedicate that much time to stitch. Not just so much about the capacity of time, it's just you get distracted, you want to do something else. So, but there's some days you just want to dive in and just stitch like a fiend. That's quite nice. Yeah, but some floss tubers, they can I think one lady say she can manage like 1,000 a day, like it's normal. And I was thinking, geez, how do you do that? Particularly with sort of full cross. That is just, I don't know how they do it. Maybe they live in a different dimension, so time flows differently. But not in my dimension. Mine's like nice and slow. Absolutely. Yeah, there's things to do around the house, dishwasher or not. Yeah, there's real life to deal with. Oh, you've got fur babies. So Jody says, plus my fur babies need to be taken outside. Oh, maybe doggies. For parties, so I'm always up and down, not just sitting. Yeah, no one can just sit around and stitch for 6 hours, right? The things we have to get on. And that's what makes it so sort of precious when you have some time to just sit down and just stitch. How nice is that? And everything is so peaceful. And yeah, I really appreciate that. I love dogs as well. I have cats because I love cats, obviously, but they're quite independent. I don't have to walk them like dogs. And also, I think they need probably more space than cats. Whereas cats, nice, they're happy to live in a flat, like my. Just reading Jody's replies. Yes, I don't know. So Jody says, I don't know how they stitch that fast. I tried it and it was no fun stitching. I don't know what methods they stitch. Maybe they just move really fast. which I'm not capable of doing, so I'm not going to try. But yeah, I think some people they're just able to stitch faster, not so much with different method. They're just fast. Whereas me, I kind of just I don't know. I go at my pace. So Jodie's dog was a pit bull from Boston Terrier. And a Boston Terrier. I don't know what a Boston Terrier look like, but dogs are lovely. Dogs are lovely. Yes. Oh, you're allergic to cats? Oh my God. Yeah, I I actually knew a couple people who love cats, adore cats, but they couldn't come to my flat because I have cats. And I actually had a boyfriend who was very, very severely allergic to cats. So you can imagine that relationship didn't turn out well. It was difficult because he literally had to run out of my house in the middle of the night because he couldn't breathe. So I adore that man, but yeah, but if you're not able to breathe around my cats, then we need to talk about it. We need to rethink about our future together. But that's just unfortunate because what do you do? Because either you just take medication to suppress the allergy. I'm not sure it's curable. Yeah, imagine if you love cats and you're allergic to them. That's tragedy. That's just tragedy. Tragic. So I'm glad I'm not allergic to cats or dogs, you know. Oh, cats are nice, but my husband and daughter-in-law were very allergic to cats. Yeah, I know. Oh, the sewing method. So, regarding the speed of these really fast people, they usually stitch two-handed. I stitch two-handed. I'm slow. And look like there's sewing machines up and down. I know, I've seen those. I've seen people like that on YouTube. And I always wondered, are they speeding up the video? But it was live stream, so I just find it hard to believe. Oh dear. Yeah, I don't know. Some people can just do things really fast. Not this girl. So I have to settle with what I have. Slow stitching. I'm happy with that. Yeah, and I always thought, well, what happens if I develop some sort of allergy to cats? I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. There's no way I'm gonna give my cat away. No way. That is out of not one of the options. So I probably just take some sort of medication to help with it. But I suppose if you're constantly exposed to cats, you're probably less likely to develop allergies to them because it's about exposure, I think. I don't know for sure. I don't think you just suddenly develop, allergy to something you're used to. I'm not sure. But fingers crossed, it'll never happen. So Jody used to have cats, but can't have cats anymore. Oh my. Yeah. That's got to be pretty tough. Yeah, but it's something that you can't help with. So it's not even about liking or disliking cats or dogs. It's just that you can't breathe, right? So there's not much you can do. I'm gonna manage a few more stitches, and I have to go and come up with some dinner. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So and this one over here, maybe one more row. Just one more row. I'll wrap it up. Call it a day. I'm pretty happy with today's progress. And it's still bright outside. Well, not bright, but it's still daylight. But it's just not very, it's getting a little bit darker. And it's 7:30 in the UK, PM. So if this was December, it would be pitch black by now. It just, complete darkness by now. Oh, same with you, Jody. Jody says it's been very nice visiting with you. I really enjoyed it. Go and have dinner, my friend. And you, Jody, I'm so happy that you're able to join me. And it's such a nice chat. And I hope I'll catch up with you again. It's just wonderful to have someone in a completely different country stitching at the same time. How lovely is that? How lovely is that? So really nice to meet you, Jody. Really, really happy. The magic of YouTube. The magic of the internet. And this will be my last stitch here. Or last two. So I've got this one here. Oh, actually, I'm going to just part down here, actually, without stitching. And then I'll show you my result today. So there you go. So today I managed, close to 3 blocks actually. Finished this one, and then this one diagonally. So I'm very happy with that. And let me zoom out a little bit here. So that's my progress so far. And let's review the numbers. So I started from 0 today, and you can see here 158. It's not bad at all. Not bad at all. And the entire percentage of the completion is 3.22%. A little bit to go, just a little bit. And very happy, and I'm so glad to be back stitching again. It's been at least 2 weeks or something like that. So I'm very, very happy to come back to this piece. So I hope to catch you soon, and hopefully I'll do more live stream. I'd like to come back. If I can find some time tomorrow, I'll probably come back again tomorrow. Whether I'm stitching this piece or not, I haven't decided, but I'll pick one, whichever one that takes my fancy. And I hope you'll be able to join me. And Jodie, such a lovely lady. I'm so happy to meet you today. And I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.